Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, PFL 6. It is the final fight card of the regular season over at Ocean Resort. Inside that bubble is Kayla Harrison, the main event. She is two-time Olympic champion, defending women's lightweight champion, and as she said, this season is her coronation year, and she joins us right now on 97.3 ESPN. Kayla, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So I wanted to start with what you said after your last fight, because you came out so definitively. And I think that's so important for people to understand, because you made a comment previously interviews that, you know, as an Olympic athlete, you're an alpha. You know, you come in there with a mentality that I'm going to beat everybody. I want to win everything. And I think people sometimes misunderstand athletes. In order for you to be as successful as you are, you know, and the reason why people like me, who's a washed up athlete, was not as successful is because if you don't have the right mentality, you're not going to be successful. And I think people misinterpret those things sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I think people mistake confidence as cockiness. And I think that, you know, until you step inside a cage and lock the door behind you, you don't really understand the amount of self-belief that you need to have. You know, if you go in there and you think like you're not the best, or you're going to I mean, that defeatist mentality is, it can get you hurt. Not only can you lose, but it can get you hurt in MMA, you know? So I'm not trying to be cocky. I'm not trying to be like a trash talker, but you do have to have a sense of self-confidence in order to achieve what I want to achieve and what I hope to achieve in my career.
Now, as I mentioned, two-time Olympic champion, women's lightweight championship. I've always wondered, you know, how do you value each of those accomplishments? Because obviously those are two different sports, even though judo in some ways prepared you for MMA. Obviously, there are two different sports. I always wonder from someone like you who's competed at the highest level, how do you value each of those accomplishments for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Olympics is something that can't really be rivaled. It's just such a special thing that happens once every 4 years where the whole world comes together. And, you know, it's the world's biggest sporting spectacle. So it's something truly special, but obviously doesn't pay the bills. Judo doesn't get you as much notoriety or doesn't give you quite as big of a platform as MMA does in the United States, especially. So while judo and the Olympic morals and ideals are special to me, I'm a realist, and MMA has more than it's made my life great. Number one, because it's a new challenge and I love it, and it pays the bills and keeps me hungry.
Kayla Harrison, the defending women's lightweight champion in the PFL, joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN PFL 6 Friday night. You can catch her on ESPN2 to watch her fight in the main event. Now, you mentioned about the state of women's MMA. I've talked about this before. I think that people don't appreciate the fact of how a lot of women's sports, there's a lot of women doing a lot of great things out there, but women's MMA seems to be treated differently than a lot of those other sports. You know, people don't always respect women's basketball. They don't always respect women's boxing. They don't always respect some of these other sports, but it feels like in MMA, the women are much more treated equally and respected compared to those other sports. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think I agree. You know, I think I'm very lucky to compete in a sport where, you know, at one point the highest paid fighter in the world was a woman. I think that women's MMA is the fastest growing sport in the world. And even though I would say technically the women are still a little bit behind the men, it's rapidly changing field. You know, you're starting to see much more competitive females fights. You're starting to see a much bigger leap when it comes to technique and strategy and things like that in the sport of women's MMA. So it's one of the youngest sports in the world, but it's the fastest growing, and definitely I would consider it one of the most equal in terms of men and women.
Now, part of your own experience is, you know, Ronda Rousey, one of the pioneers of women's MMA in today's world. but you've also trained and you're friends with Amanda Nunes, who is the current GOAT of women's MMA, and also I would argue the pound for pound best MMA fighter on the planet, but just my personal opinion.
I agree with you.
What is your opinion about how those women have impacted you and your career?
Yeah, again, I think I'm just truly, I'm just lucky. I ended up moving to Boston to train with the Pedros and Ronda when I was 16. And, she was the big fish in the pond and I was constantly chasing her. She was my rabbit. Anything she did, I wanted to do better. I took my lumps from her and then it was able to surpass her accomplishments in judo and able to sort of, carry on the torch. And it's the same principle with, Amanda. I think that I came to ATT. I very quickly fell in love with the gym and the coaches, the training partners. Obviously, the best female fighter in the world trains there. So that's where I needed to be. And she's my rabbit again. I'm so lucky that I have someone to look up to like that. And I have someone to chase, and it's been a crazy thing in my career where I've always kind of had people who have shown me the path and then I just tweak it a little bit to make it my own.
What's also interesting is that both Amanda and Ronda are both unique personalities from each other as well. You put those two in a room. If you didn't know they were successful MMA fighters, you might not know how are both of these women in the same sport just because of the way their personality, the way they carry themselves. And for me, I met Ronda way before she ever became famous. And she was at the time she was shy, but then she became this MMA star. She exploded. And Amanda is always, to me at least, every time I talk to her, been consistently this. She knows who she is. She don't give a bleep who you are. Kind of attitude. And I feel like your personality is a little closer to Amanda's in that way, and that is, you carry yourself with this confidence and this understanding of I know who I am, and I think that's one of the reasons that helps. Fighters be successful is if you know who you are, that already kind of covers up half the territory.
Yeah, and I think that just comes with maturity. If you had talked to me when I was a 20-year-old judo player, I probably wouldn't be as confident and assured of who I am. But I've had the good fortune of kind of growing up in a little bit of a spotlight in judo and sort of being the poster child and carrying that weight on my shoulders. And I definitely have confidence now. I think that comes with maturity. I think Amanda, also it's come with maturity. I'm sure if you talked to her at the very beginning of her MMA career, I know that I've talked to Dan about, how she didn't even know if she wanted to keep doing MMA at one point. And then something switched. And I would say that it was her mentality. I would say that her confidence came in. I would say that her self-belief and her ability to overcome those negative thoughts just sort of blossomed and made her into the killer that she is today. And now, not only is she a killer, but she's like a happy killer,
Right.
What's scarier than that?
Oh, it's awesome to watch her fight too. Kayla Harrison, who's also great to watch. PFL 6, Friday night, ESPN2, joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Kayla, I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on with you also. Obviously, you are someone who your entire life, you've been someone who's conquered all kinds of things, outside the ring, inside the ring, every aspect of life, obviously as well. 2020 was a year that challenged a lot of people. And I got to ask you, before we get to a couple other things, when I talked to you back in 2019, you were so focused on, I want to be the best I can be. And it feels like you've taken that step from, I want to be perfect, to saying, no, I am the baddest woman who walks into every room. What was that evolution for you? Because it seems like from 2019 to now, you've done a lot of growing as a person.
Yeah, I think that's just life. I've had, I would definitely say I've had my fair share of obstacles and hurdles in my journey. And I would also say that, again, it's just a maturity thing and comes with time. And that self-belief, when I first started MMA, I was the new kid on the block and I was young and hungry, but being successful in judo doesn't automatically make you successful in MMA, So I had a big hill to climb and I still have a huge mountain to climb, but I feel like now I'm comfortable inside of a cage. Now I feel like I'm an MMA fighter. Now I'm not a veteran, but I've got enough experience where I know that I'm on the right path. I'm doing all the right things. I've stayed the course, and I truly believe that I have what it takes to be the greatest in the world, you know? So, and I'm also just tired of like, why wouldn't I tell people? Like, why wouldn't I? Like, it's not me talking trash. It's not me saying, I mean, this is just my affirmation and my claim to the world that I believe in myself. Now watch me work. You know, that's it. Watch me.
And part of that is there's a lot of people who are watching you. And I know there's a lot of women out there. You're basically like a real life superhero for them, and I know this sounds funny to hear, but I mean, it really is because, your Fearless Foundation, the book that you told your story, Fighting Back, your story and your success really speaks to a lot of people, male and female, that, you are someone that they can say this, if she can overcome it, I can too.
That's the goal, right? Like what I do is extremely selfish. I step in a cage and I fight people for money and a piece of gold, right? Like that's not going to save the world. That's not going to change the world. But what it does do is it gives me a platform and it gives me an opportunity to change the world how I'd like to. And that's really it. If I can help one person who survived sexual abuse, if I can touch one soul, if I can make one person believe that there's a shiny gold medal at the end of the tunnel or two shiny gold medals, or there is a light, then I'm doing my part to help make the world a better place. And I feel like that's definitely my true passion. That's definitely my true purpose in this world. Fighting is great. I love it. I want to be the best just because I have this internal desire to be the best. But more than that, I want to leave behind a lasting legacy. I want to leave behind something that I can be proud of, my kids can be proud of, my family can be proud of, and that will trickle down and have a ripple effect for many years to come. So that's what the Fearless Foundation is all about. That's what Fighting Back is all about. And I'm excited to continue that journey and to help change lives.
Of course, folks can go to KaylaHarrison.com. Tell us a little bit before I let you go more about the Fearless Foundation and what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So the Fearless Foundation is it's for survivors of sexual abuse. I was sexually abused by my first judo coach. And really the goal of the foundation is two-part. Number one is education. So I remember being in school and learning all about stranger danger and bullying and safe sex. And now there's probably, courses on cyberbullying and things like that. But there's nothing really, there's no educational material on what you should do if someone close to you tries to take advantage of you. And statistics show that if you're going to be sexually abused, which 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are, that it's most likely going to be by somebody that you know. So the book Fighting Back is where the education part comes in. It's not a memoir and it's not a textbook. It's kind of a combination of both. It's basically my story told through my voice, my journal entries, all during the abuse, after the abuse, the court system, all of it. And then it's sprinkled in with real life expertise advice from psychologists from McLean Hospital. So, it's what grooming looks like, and then it's how you talk to your child about something they may be going through. If you suspect something, what you should do, the court process, and how you can help your child through something like that. And I firmly believe that it should be in every 7th grade health class curriculum. I think that I'm working on a curriculum for the book right now. And my goal is for it to be in anyone's hands who deals with children, social workers, police officers, doctors, teachers, caretakers, parents. I think that one way we combat sexual abuse and its prevalence is by talking about it. And we've started to do a really good job of that as a society, but not only should we talk about it, but we should find solutions to it. And that's where the book comes into play.
And again, folks can go to KaylaHarrison.com for more information. She is the defending women's lightweight champion of the PFL. She fights Friday night, PFL 6, the final week of the regular season for PFL on ESPN2. And she joined us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Kayla, thank you so much for jumping on.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.